We were talking before about how to pitch what the podcast feels like for people who haven't watched before and might come to this table expecting to be interviewed and actually realise that they got sideswiped by a tangential conversation. But it's more like an intellectual itch scratch.
Intellectual's a stretch. There are patches of it.
Can I introduce you to an
Tom
entire
is
paper called...
Tom's an exception.
What does it mean to have a human in the loop?
Human in the loop. Human in the loop. What in the world is a human in the loop? Human in the loop.
AI in the loop. Humans in charge.
Welcome to Human in the Loop.
Tom Barraclough is a lawyer, researcher, and co-founder of the Brainbox Institute, which is New Zealand's leading public interest think tank at the intersection of law, tech, and public policy. For ages, 2018, he's been one of the country's most consistently clear-headed voices on governance, regulation, and what it means to build trustworthy digital systems. And through his venture Syncopate lab, he and his co-founder Hamish, the other Hamish, are building...
The fake one.
The worst one.
The evil one.
Another one. A lovely one. A lovely Hamish.
Sorry, Hamish. I don't actually know you. He scares me.
You're going to need to have Hamish on an episode.
Hamish is going to have to come on to defend his Hamish.
What happens if there's two Hamishes?
Touch, though.
Oh, true.
Yeah, that could overlap. That could mess timelines.
Like when they turn the mirrors on each other in Inception.
Please enjoy this episode as I really struggle to keep the train on the tracks.
Me and Danny, when you were talking before, we were both looking at each other like, do we interrupt her again?
Yeah, I was like,
we managed to suppress the edge.
It's so easy.
Forever.
Sorry, okay.
Alana, continue.
Correct. You said her name wrong, just FYI.
Oh, Alana.
I got one.
You spent so much time on my name as well, so actually it's really rude.
Tom Barraclough.
Try my name.
Dunno.
Oh, good.
Do you have a middle name?
I don't. My parents didn't give me a middle name because they were like, when they traveled, they had millions of middle names, and the computer could only handle 20 characters, the Galileo system.
Yeah.
So their name constantly got cut off. And then when they would compare the passport to the name or the visa and the name, they would always have to do extra paperwork. So they counted the number of characters that the system could have, which was 20. And they made sure my sister and I had names that had less than 20 characters because they were like, these kids are going to travel a lot.
Do you know what? Yes. I'm going to hold on to that because it kind of relates.
Code
it really relates. Yeah. I spent my morning reading, and this is the last part of my introduction. Hamish and Tom have co-authored the Draft New Zealand API Standard, and this thing here, which is a paper on radical full-stack digital legal systems. Is this the one that you are about to publish in Cambridge?
It's been accepted with revisions to the Cambridge Forum on AI journal, which I'm excited about.
And they've also just had a paper published in you had a paper in the MIT Computational Law Review, and Deloitte is citing that in their global trend on digital government paper?
Yeah, something like that, yeah.
You're going to make us work really hard today because people with legal degrees speak in a very specific way, or at least the words make sense, and we're a little bit flippant with our language, even to the point where I loved the part in your paper where you talk about the difference between a developer and a programmer. I don't know if this is news to you guys.
Oh, no.
It is now.
I'm going to get called out by a bunch of
I remember as someone who does the code, but when you develop inside a system, you're thinking about the development of what you're coding inside a larger tranche of work. Is that a fair?
We cited somebody else on it, so it's not an original take from me. But essentially, it's like you're either like on the tools or you're doing the big picture thinking about how everything's meant to work, and then doing a little bit of on the tools stuff.
We would call that architect developer.
Yeah, I mean,
wouldn't differentiate programmer, but it's a colloquialism.
Define the divisions make sense, and you could allocate those names to those divisions. I wouldn't say that they are generically accepted as definitions for those words.
Yeah. I think it's in there in the context of what does an LLM do as well, right? So it's like it can produce.
What does an LLM do?
Wow.
We got 90 minutes to cover.
Let's presume our audience is at least up to date on that.
You've defined them for the purposes of describing the different classes of things that need to happen in the paper.
Yeah, like one of the things we go into is could you do rules as code, which is like writing code that purports to implement law with AI systems, and would that be good or not? And we've got a chunk in there about the way that that would be risky because law is often like bad code. So this is a point from the original Hamish F. That a lot of the time Yeah, law is bad code. It's like it's not well drafted a lot of the time. Sorry, PCO, Andy, if you're listening.
No, that's fine.
Yeah.
But my policy platform would be to delete a random law that's older than 50 years every day.
There's actually a statutory program for that.
Really?
Yeah, they do that all the time.
How do we still have weird stuff left? Like,
I think there's like a lot of it. There's a lot of it to get through, and I think it's also like you imagine if you sat down on every like rush project ever and just went, you know what, I reckon that one probably don't need it anymore. Like you'd probably need to like think that through.
By don't need it, do you mean delete a code base?
Yeah, or I guess you're either talking about like a whole code base, or it might even just be like a module within that or something. Like the point I'm trying to make is, and this is kind of what we get into in the paper, is like these things are all dependencies. Like you never know what's stacked on top of it somewhere. And often the things that seem the most niche are probably almost the most important because they've caught like an edge case somewhere. So like, because it takes a lot to put a law through. So like people don't just go, let's just do one on milk today. You know, like it has to go through so much to get anywhere close to a statute. So yeah, we don't do it willy-nilly.
I forget which one it was. There was a paper, a legal, an act, is that what you call it, when they enact a new set of laws?
Yep.
It was designed to be like a roll-up of a bunch of different historic laws. It will be something to do with IP, because that's normally what I'm looking up, is like, why is this illegal? And that seems dumb. So looking up, or maybe the other thing I do is import a bunch of stuff. So how come I'm spending so much money on customs? Let's check the law and see what it says. It's usually the sorts of acts I'm looking up. But it was a roll-up of like a bunch of historic laws. And if you look at the historic laws, like you understand why they eventually need to do a roll-up, because you've got like this rule, this act, but it's fragmentary when you try and read it. It's just like, we've changed this word from that to and we've changed this word from, this rule has this new criteria added to the bottom, but they don't actually list the sentence that they're changing or the thing that they're replacing. So then you have to go look back at the previous version. It doesn't give you a reference of like when that was defined. So you as a human have to go back through all the previous versions of where they've updated the act and do that collapsing yourself.
Unless you have docref.
Yeah.
I mean, what you're saying now, having read this paper this morning, I can now completely see the use case and application for what it is that you've done.
Love it. Done.
I know. And if a layperson like myself can understand it, then you at home can too.
So maybe explain what docref is briefly, because probably because there's an interesting, and I don't know how much this happens in New Zealand.
I think
in America, I know part of the issue is the law, the act, is not actually most of the law. Right, the case law is more of the law than the act itself is.
Do you want to rewind back to the use case? Like,
what's the problem we're trying to solve?
Yeah, what's the problem that you saw?
Most people probably won't have a comprehensive understanding of all of the gaps in the justice system.
You don't do deep dives into the statute book just to find out why your project is
I just break laws willingly.
But not even just justice. Like, there's a really good use case for. Maybe a great use case, if you get to the very end and explain backwards, is residential real estate.
Yeah. Well, that was the model. So dialing back even further.
Where'd the idea come from? What problem are you trying to solve?
So in New Zealand in about 2018, and it's interesting because this is like, I just finished doing some reviews for the paper. There's like 30-something articles that cite our paper from 2021, and most of them point to this idea of rules as code as being something that originated in New Zealand. So it's this really interesting sort of New Zealand leadership thing, which I think we have lost sight of a little bit in New Zealand. I think we're a little bit like, I don't know, I think we thought it was kind of too hard and everybody kind of moved on. But essentially what we started with was, you have all of these bits of legislation across government, and they create all these rules for administering all kinds of things. Like the classic one would be social welfare entitlements or tax or customs duties, like all the different things that you've got to pay on things. And you look at these things, like you'd probably read it and you go like, this is a little bit like a bit of code, because it is creating rules, and you get these interesting things where there'll be like a definition section, and it's almost like a reusable like bit of code that you like a function that you kind of point back to. But so the idea was that the way that we kind of administer the law now is we have all these different statutes, and then all of like everybody, so you guys, private sector, public sector, kind of go through and try and understand what it requires them to do, right? And that's an important thing. We're never going to get rid of that. But often what it also leads to is an attempt to put it into a computer system of some kind. So that might be like a rules engine, would be like the really sophisticated one, but actually it could just be a spreadsheet too. Like it could just be like writing a formula that says like, if you're older than 15 and your income is less than blah, you get this. So they had this idea to turn law into code. And if you turned law into code, then you could run it across different government departments and it would be interoperable. And then you could even do stuff like model social policy. So you'd be like, hey, we're going to tweak this thing here. What's going to be the ripple effect? It could be something that you could use and publish so that you could have basically an open source approach to like automated decision-making systems. And yeah, so that's the kind of rules as code thing. We took a look at that, and my context before getting into the tech space was actually access to justice. So we would help people with their ACC claims, and it would be the situation where like literally almost a computer says no type situation where you just lost your stuff and you think that's wrong and you don't know how to challenge it. So the idea that you'd have government departments sort of systematizing that and turning all law into code, and then your experience with the government would just be, you can't have this. Why? Because that's what the computer model says, and we can't really explain why. And should we change the law? No, we can't, because then we'd have to change the computers. Was quite concerning to me. So I contacted, I was thinking about this, and I actually saw Hamish Fraser tweet about the same statute that I was dealing with all the time. And he was talking about like the XML structure of it. And I was like, what is that? That's fascinating. What are you doing?
Yeah, what is that for those who don't know at home, and also me?
XML is like, so it's a markup language, and it's the same thing as HTML. So it's like the thing that basically takes like text on a page.
Text on black. Is that what it is?
It's the thing that kind of takes text and says like how to display it. So it basically lets you add like invisible tags to normal text that tell a computer what it is.
If you imagine a Word document,
and
you've got a header and header one, header two, a paragraph, a bullet point. XML is like a code version of being able to structure data like that.
So it's like this hidden thing that's like, this is a heading. This is a date. This is a paragraph.
There's a general problem in which also leads to a bunch of security issues, which is you've got like this string of text or some string of information, and some of that the human needs to know. And some of it the human shouldn't see in its instruction for the computer on how to deal with it. Right? Like or it's meta information about the information. So this is not a main paragraph, this is an aside. Or this is a reference or a comment or something like that, right? So there's meta information about the text. But computers don't have 3-dimensional data or even really 2-dimensional data. They just have like a big long list of bytes.
No matter how you structure it, it's all ones and zeros on classical.
Because I'm sure you'll get to it, but part of that exact thing is a human knows that when something is bold or underlined or italic, it infers something, but that doesn't exist when everything is code.
Even how do you encode bold or italic, right? Because computers don't have different numbers. Like A is a number. When you're looking at if you're using ASCII or Unicode or however you're turning strings into the numbers, because computers only deal with numbers, however you're turning them into numbers, there's only one number for A. There's not a different number for bold A and a different number for italic.
But don't you just go like open bracket B close bracket?
Well, that's so that's kind of what XML is.
That's what it is.
Nailed it.
Got there. I'm doing this for you guys.
So XML is like a generic standard for doing that, right? Because you have this sort of thing, not just in text, but like, if you've got like physics, you might want to say this is an equation and this is or whatever you're doing, you want to be able to wrap pieces of text and say this is all related and it's all this kind of thing, and do that nested too. So this is a paragraph, but within a paragraph, this is a particularly important bit, or this is a bit in a different language or whatever. So XML is like a standard for doing that for any kind of industry or intent.
Okay. And so you bumped into another Hamish. Did he come from a law background as well, or was he a coder, a programmer, a developer?
I guess he'd say developer. He's a developer, but he actually has a design degree, and he'd most recently been...
What is he? A programmer or a developer? God damn it, make your mind up, Tom.
So binary. I think he struggles to introduce himself in the same way that I do. It's like, I do... I do these things.
Polymath. Barraclough the polymath.
Most of us suffer from social anxiety. Struggle to introduce ourselves.
So he was tweeting about it, and to me it was like, that sounds terrible. Like the idea of turning into law into code to me was literally like hellscape dystopia territory. Like that sounds really bad, because our whole thing was kind of going to court and going like, well, this is how you've implemented the law, but this is what the law is, and there's a gap between those two things, and we need you to fix that gap. So essentially the law as code thing, we did a research project on it, because Hamish was sort of working inside government going, I feel like we should be thinking about this before we kind of like really scale it up. We did a research project on it, and we put it in its historical context, and we tried to come to some conclusions about it. The conclusions were, there's a lot of cool opportunity to turn law into code and really like improve the way that we do all kinds of things. But there's a really bad way to do it, and there's a really good way to do it. The good way to do it is all about traceability. And it's all about recording your thinking, because what you're doing is you're reading language and you're interpreting it into the code. So you're saying, essentially your code is saying, here's how I think the law works. And you always have to be able to be wrong about that from a kind of separation of powers perspective. It's like what keeps law from being like a command by a king, as opposed to like something you can go to court and fight about and exert your rights around. So DocRef is all about how do you work more effectively with that legal information. So like, how do you get around the whole like, the amendment's over here and it's not linked to this and I can't download it and there's a bunch of XML crap in it that I have to delete before I can work with it. So it's about working with the information. It's about recording what you're doing with it better. So sort of taking notes and annotations and tagging it and stuff. And then it's about links. So let's say you're writing all your code and you're saying this implements this subparagraph, but also pulls across from this cell in this table. And it's also taking into account this policy document over here, and it's not doing this. At the moment, to do that, you'd be basically typing like a lot of like brackets, or you'd be putting in, there's this issue with the New Zealand legislation site where the URLs kind of don't point to a specific version. So they have like latest. And so it takes you to the latest one, which is great from a user perspective, but terrible from a code perspective, because you don't actually know which one you were looking at when you were doing the code. So we've kind of got this elaborate thing where we kind of take all the law, turn it into a more usable format. We break it all down into like way smaller chunks. So you can link to like a cell in a table or a code example or sub paragraph. And then you can run that through your code base. But a side effect of it as well is that you just have better law and regulatory materials as structured data that you can download, and you can work with AI, and you can do all kinds of cool stuff with it.
When I was reading through and that kind of thing, immediately my visual brain goes, I've seen Obsidian, and you eventually refer to Obsidian, but that's what I kind of think of. It's the ability to have these wonderful interconnections when you go, here's this massive thing like, I don't know, like health data and privacy laws around health data, and also how
Yeah.
does health data link from A to B. And at the moment, all of those different entities, because it might be Ministry of Social Development, and then it's a little bit the health,
Yeah.
and then it's a little bit something else, they can actually all potentially, in a system like what you are hoping to enable, share. I learned a lot about what API means. I learned a lot about URLs.
URLs.
And
yeah.
actually, why it had never occurred to me. I mean, as a marketer, I know the pain of a broken URL,
Yeah.
but the
Yeah.
way in which they're applied through government and policy, that's something I don't have to think about. But you go, yeah, you could really be messing with people's understanding of a system, or which is probably why so many lawyers are still like, you've got to be a person who can go through lots and lots of back catalogues and PDFs, and now PDFs aren't even protected as a document source.
Mm.
I'm going to read a little thing, which I thought was a really nice understanding in my study that I did. You guys go through a lot of intellectual commentary on a daily basis. Unless you are the type of person who has to keep up with this kind of stuff, right? You are constantly like, I'm constantly looking for what's the most human, like ELI5 way that I can talk about this. And I read this quote, which is something you've referenced. So it's not like it's a quote that you've written. Large language models by themselves are statistical and non-deterministic in the way they operate. Open quote, inserting a system that improvises based on statistical likelihood into a rules-based bureaucracy is like replacing a notary with a jazz musician who riffs on each performance, end quote. And then going on to say that messes with traceability, and it messes with, even when traceability can be built in, someone can fall victim to the same kind of hallucination. So basically, like, we like to think that AI would do the same things, but you can't play around with the law. So if I had a legal document and I asked like my Claude to reference it or read it or summarize it on day one, if I go back to it on day 7, it's going to tell me something different, right? And those are the kind of things, like as a regular public citizen user, I need to be able to trust that if I put law and an LLM together, real things are going to be fed back to me.
I think that's one of the things people don't like to see about society, though, is like people think of the law as this like really objective thing that you'll get the same outcomes every time. And that's not even vaguely true. There's so much statistical randomness based on like what judge you get or like what information you've collected.
So like one thing is that I think one of the things that really drives me in terms of the Brainbox stuff that I do is like your ability to make something comprehensible and talk to people in a way that they understand, I think is like that's very important, you know. And I think one of the hard things about what I do is you get so into the detail, and then before you know it, you like use a word and you don't even realize that you have to kind of like translate it for somebody. It really frustrates me when I get into a room and people either, let's say you're talking about law stuff or government stuff or technical stuff, and people feel the need to kind of like justify that they don't understand it. Whereas it's like most of the world doesn't understand it, and they definitely don't understand the intersection of all of those things, because that's a very small Venn diagram. Yeah. You know? So I think that communication aspect is
there's also this aspect that I've never understood, which is, you know, ignorance is not a defense in the law, but you never get taught anything about the law.
Well, that's,
and you can't find it.
Kind
you
of
understand
deliberate. Yeah. Like, again, this is a cynical take, right? Like, but part of the point of you not being able to understand the law is so that you can be controlled. Right, it's so that they can. There's
laws. Oh, geez, where's your tinfoil?
There are quite a lot of laws that are basically just like, we want to be able to move you out of a space if we don't like you being in the space, and we want you to feel like you've got the rights to be in that space, but we also want to be able to come up with a pretext to get you out of that space if it, you know. So like, what is loitering? What's the definition of loitering? It's just when we feel like you've been here too long, right? What is a crowd or a dangerous crowd? It's, well, when we feel like it's gotten like, but it's all vibes for the police guy or the judge.
So this is That's a feature, not a bug.
Yeah.
But not necessarily in a
cynical way,
malevolent social control kind of way. Although there are like all these really amazing critiques that have been made about the way that law does operate ideologically, and sort of creates this like. It was one of the things that actually drew me to this area a lot was like the way that people talk about law as if it is like a marble machine, and you like drop it in the top and it just goes bing, 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 and out comes the outcome, and we have no control over what happens in the middle. Whereas actually there's like...
We vote.
So, well, but even within like an institution, right?
Yeah.
Like, so this used to always frustrate me about the ACC space was like, well, we're just doing what the evidence says. But actually at the same time, like we're deciding to send you for an assessment, and we're deciding who we're going to send you to, and we know what they already think about this. And if we don't like the result, we'll send you for another one until we get something that we can kind of work on. And we're also going to control the information that goes to that person that assesses it. So there's this real claim of neutrality around the whole thing when actually there was a huge amount of discretion and influence. Yeah. So when I saw this...
Like insurance in general and
I think so.
A lot of things. I guess that's the dichotomy with that. It's like if you make the rules really clear, you'll realize how bad they are.
That is what happens. Yeah. That's really funny because
and so someone has to pay that price, right? That you can't play that flute without paying the piper eventually.
Yeah,
because the way common law works is someone gets tested, and then the outcome of that forms the precedent for the next person, right?
Yeah. It's one of the kind of like really funny things about some of these rules as code experiments that happen. So the precursor to DocRef actually came about because Hamish the Greater was working for the Wellington City Council.
You got him good.
The larger?
Give me a fist bump, Tom. Give me a fist bump, Tom.
He was at the Wellington City Council, and he was being asked to code up the dog registration rules. And he spent ages on it, and he still didn't have this way to sort of link it all back to the authoritative source to explain his working. The outcome of it was that they were so complicated that the council just went, that's dumb. Yeah. And they just changed the laws. Because it was just so convoluted for such a small thing.
Yeah.
And the other thing that you get is you'll be inside these institutions and nobody can actually agree like what the law means as well. So it'll be like, you get, the example would be in like an urban planning context. You go and ask one planner and then they're like, oh, it's like this. And you go, why? And they're like, well, because that's just how we've always done it. And then you go and ask another planner and they go, no, it's not that. And you get this difference.
Yeah. So do you see it more of as back office function, or you see people actually using it? Because the usage thing is, there's real world consequences to the first couple of years of use. It's like flying on a new aircraft.
Right, yeah.
You're effectively a beta tester.
I've never done that before.
I don't recommend it.
Brand new aircraft. Yeah, I saw the Mars discussion last time as well. So,
would you live on Mars?
I don't think I would.
One-way ticket? No.
I don't know.
This drives my family insane.
Yeah.
I guess there's like
I would get to Mars and like live the rest of my life growing out a Earth visible penis on.
Yeah.
Of all things to do.
What a way to go. You would go down in history and they'd talk about you for 1,000 years.
He's making his own laws.
It's like an aviation thing to do, right?
Yeah. Someone will have to tell me, because on the moon there's no atmosphere, right? So they would stay there for a long time. But I think on Mars there is some atmosphere.
Yeah, there's wind and stuff.
You have to go to a planet where there's no atmosphere.
The moon.
So...
and then you'd be mooning
every another planet then. So
that'd
be carry out his master.
Daniel's giant Todger can live on through the ages.
There's nothing stopping you opening Strava and just running in a...
Who says I don't do that?
Predicted that one.
So don't get on a new plane. What I'm saying is like the first person that has to work with the rule system has to discover the gaps at their cost.
Yeah. So the doing rules as code is really hard. Like the way that they sort of concluded you need to do it is with a multidisciplinary team, because if you think about it, you kind of need the lawyer in the room, you need the developer in the room, you need the subject matter expert. So it is quite a hard thing to do. And one of the things I'm pretty curious about is kind of running experiments to see how far you can accelerate that whole process with AI. because you can technically write code, you can write descriptions of code, and people can come to grips with all of that stuff way faster. And the whole point of the URLs as well is you can go and click them and see what the source is and kind of check stuff faster. So there's a big back-end component to it, and it's not like I'd be expecting the New Zealand public to kind of like rush with enthusiasm to get into like coding law. But there is also a big...
I don't know if it gets me out of a parking ticket. You'd be surprised what motivates me.
Sure.
I had a parking ticket. Like, this is because of Auckland Transport, and like there's so many laws that are just built up over time, and it's clearly people just following process and completely disempowered, because I failed to believe that the people issuing the ticket are not able to kind of go, this is dumb. And, you know, my mechanic parked one of my not working BMWs, which is a constant theme in my life, on the wrong side of the road inside a concrete barriered cycle lane. So he just parked it there temporarily. I was facing the wrong way. And they issued a ticket because it was a safety issue, because the rear red reflectors weren't visible to traffic traveling in the same direction, right? Broad daylight, concrete median in between and behind a tree. So there was like a tree there. There was a car in broad daylight facing the wrong direction, but it was like a full concrete median, and the ticket got issued. And you challenged it, and it was like, no, this is a safety concern, and that was it. It was like, and then I went back with like, how is it a safety concern? And the person was like, red reflectors not visible to oncoming traffic. It's like, okay, what happens when a pedestrian crosses the road? Is that a safety concern, and should they be ticketed? No response.
I've got like a,
you don't wear red reflectors when you cross
like
the road.
A sassy answer to this, which is, have you run any polls on the podcast yet? Because
no, but I'm about to. I am about to actually.
All the cyclists are probably like, I don't care about the cars. I don't want you like if it's on the cycleway.
No. So that was actually if they had issued a ticket for blocking a cycleway, I would have been like, yeah, fair.
So you were in the wrong.
Oh, my mechanic was. Yeah. He took $70 off my bill, but and apologized.
So there's no consequence for you as well.
No, zero.
Well, because he didn't. I mean, but it does point to a bit of a. It's not like a problem, but there's an incentives problem, right? Like the reason that your ticket was issued is because everyone's incentivized to give you a ticket. They don't like the law is just an excuse in that case.
Yeah, it is.
Right, like, and so you get all these things that are not law but are still encoded in computer systems that there's no incentive to change. Right, like my wife, until she married me, didn't have a last name. Most people in Indonesia don't. On your passport, it just says given name. Right, it has whatever your name is, it's there. Every computer system that any Westerner has developed in the last 60 years,
first name,
last name. What do you put if you don't have a last name? Well, sorry, you can't buy any tickets or purchase anything or register for any service. Now, you could just lie. And for some systems, fine, until they decide that's a EULA violation or whatever. But for plane tickets, you've got to get it right. Now, the actual answer, it turns out, is you're supposed to put your name in twice. Your first name and your last name are identical, and that's the magic code.
Oh my God, that's why so many people from a particular part of the world have same first name, last name.
Yeah.
I'd never considered that before.
Well, they don't.
They don't. You're right. They don't. Yeah.
That's the magic code that lets most legislative areas know, like, I can't fit in this form field. But that's like, there's no law that says you have to have a first name and a last name. The laws around transport are just you have to identify your passengers. And it's
a really good example of just that whole thing. So part of the sort of context for the work that we did was there's this really influential law professor called Lawrence Lessig who wrote this book in I think it was maybe the 90s. And he explored this idea that code is law. And what he meant by that is there's all kinds of ways of influencing behavior. But actually the one that we're not really thinking about is computer code. And the interesting thing about computer code as an influence on behavior is you don't have an option to disobey. So if you're working, there's no way to use the computer system where you can morally object. So there's another big jurisprudential teaching point here, which is there's a difference between approaches to interpretation, right? So the car example that you identified would be basically like a literal interpretation. So it's like, that's what the words say. We have to do what the words say. It might be stupid, but we're going to do it anyway. And then the flip side of that is what's called a purposive approach, which is it gives you that flexibility to go like, yeah, sure, the words say this, but it's like clearly not what we intended for the law to do.
Is that what we would call human in the loop?
I didn't actually
to a degree
finish that thought. The ticket was actually correctly issued. The guy gave the wrong reason because it was unsafe in the cycle lane.
That's another big AI thing, right?
Yeah.
Because you can have an automated decision-making system that gives you an outcome that might be correct.
Yeah.
But if you don't know what the reason for it is, because you can't interrogate the words of the model.
So his citation was effectively wrong, which was the ticket was issued by the guy that wrote the thing, but he I think he or she wrote down
citations,
safety. Like he just wrote down the code that I was in violation for. But it made sense if you walked away from the problem, calmed down, and you're like, actually, yeah, that was unsafe for cyclists. It wasn't unsafe for vehicles. But the guy that I was dealing with, was definitely a guy, cited it was unsafe for vehicles, which made no sense, which enraged me. And it was like, I want to fight you on this, but I went away for 2 days and I was like, oh no, it was actually unsafe for cyclists. So on the whole, the ticket was valid.
Yeah.
But in the moment, I was like, I gave up because I was like, this isn't worth $70.
But is it that kind of little legal loophole, which is where even though
Citation
there
is
might
everything,
be,
right?
yeah, because I've heard multiple cases of, let's say somebody was being let go from their job and they'll engage an HR lawyer or employment lawyer or whatever, and that lawyer is able to find a loophole where even if you were awful and absolutely should have been fired, if the employer left out a couple of steps in the employment law process, you can...
Oh yeah, this
completely
is one of the
rinse
most
them.
common mistakes, and it cuts both ways. Employees get shafted all the time because they don't know that they have to do certain things, or they're too trusting of the employer at the time, or the individual involved as well.
We were talking about the bricks and minifigs drama. There's this whole legal drama where a franchise operator has, at least allegedly, I think it's proven, but I'm just going to stick allegedly in for not getting sued by random, very legal guy in America.
Law, it's all around us.
Stole $200,000 of someone's Lego, right? That was being held in commission.
Good allegedly.
Allegedly. That was being held in commission in a franchisee's store, right?
Yeah.
And Leonard French was doing a legal analysis. He was like, it's still illegal. It's still a legal case here. But there's a thing that could have made it very illegal, which is like a $20 bond of commission or something. Like you go and you register with your local state government that you've got this like high value item being sold for commission at some other place, and that like, you know, puts a little mark on it that says this is something you've got to pay attention to if there's a bankruptcy or whatever. And so it's like this $20 thing that would have made the whole process way easier. It's still illegal, but it's like, you know, something that makes the lawsuits and everything easier. But who knows that if you like, there's this magic dollar number that if you happen to go above that, you need to go and get the certificate from your state.
Yeah, and there's also
right.
There's also this is an SVU episode, so don't take it as real, but like it is a possible thing that could happen. Was there's this like episode where these two kids steal some baseball cards from some rich person's home, and the baseball cards are worth like $320,000 on last valuation, and the threshold for grand larceny, which is a 20-year mandatory or something, is $300,000. So the whole TV show is about these kids who accidentally steal a bunch of baseball cards and are facing like, and they're like just 18 or whatever, so they've been tried as adults, is the whole drama. And yeah, they crossed this line that they had absolutely no idea would kind of go from like stealing a bunch of baseball cards to you're now facing prison. That's the kind of weirdness that everyone kind of just lives with, you know? And I think you hear stories about people, you know, buying properties that are on a floodplain and then the insurance being declined. You know, that's all. And, you know, stuff like insurance, like if they don't ask you the question, don't volunteer the information. That's not really like commonly understood. If you volunteer the information, they have to write it down and then they have to use it in the assessment because of, you know, what they're dealing with. And then there's like weird ways that law work backwards. We're doing sort of a case study training for all our staff. And ANZ Bank is going through this thing where they've been fined $26 million because there was an error on one of their calculator pages. And so they have gone to court. They've lost in court against class action. The $26 million is paid out, and they're absolutely enraged because it turns out that the calculator actually undercalculated the amount of interest that people had to pay. So people paid less on their mortgages, and the law was interpreted so strictly that you're not allowed to make an error in calculation, not that you're only allowed to not make errors in calculation that don't benefit the user. This error in calculation meant that the bank lost money and people saved money, but they still got fined because the law was interpreted so strictly. And it's like, it's just weird. Like, you're just like, take a moment, take a beat. You're just like, did we really need to use justice system resources and pay all these lawyers? Like, no offense, but like, to do this thing, to then set an example. What example are you setting? Like,
I guess it's, I don't know, there's like a bug bounty analogy there in a way. Like it might not matter that much, but it's still better to know that it exists. And so one of the other
the question I have though is if they got a different judge on the day.
I don't think so. It's really, so one of the other things to understand is that, like, how you said sort of law is very like subjective. It is and it isn't. So like the thing that you're trying to do, which is similar to writing code in a way, is you're trying to, one of the authors in the paper calls it radical uncertainty. So if you sit down and you go like, okay, I'm going to design, let's say you have to design afresh the system for ticketing cars. Like, you have to kind of sit down, okay, well, what are we trying to do here? Well, what we're trying to do is we're trying to do this, and you write down like the purpose of it. And then you have to sort
I'm
of
not going to lie, the first line will be if Danu.
Yeah, if there is a BMW.
Return 0.
Yeah, exceptions for BMWs. It's hard. It's hard to sit down and go, we're going to design a system of rules that does this. And then you have to think about, well, who's actually going to be applying it? And then you got to think about calibrating the consequences of it. And then you've also got to think like, well, is there already law on this? Like, do we have to make it interface with something else as well? It's a really hard exercise to just sit down and like write something.
I've got one that was raised on LinkedIn recently. I don't know if you saw it, but should we have a law that tickets petrol cars parking in EV spaces?
Oh, I did see that one. Yeah.
Because we have it.
EV drivers feel so sorry for them.
This was a photo of a diesel truck with a trailer, and they had parked across 4 EV charging bays.
It's so sad. They just can't afford the gasoline to get to places,
One of the things that's you can do, not always because it's a relatively complex experience, and so you try and build it in from the beginning in code, is to try and look for as many opportunities as you can to simplify, right? Because humans, at least until the advent of AI, humans have to be able to hold the whole system in their head to understand all of the side effects of any change you're making anywhere in the system. And so a lot of engineering practice is trying to design the system as simply as possible with as much extracted and abstracted logic as possible, so that you can minimize the size of the system. And it doesn't really seem like that happens with law at all. If there happens to be someone who remembers that there's a reference to some other thing, they might try and reuse it, but like everything will redefine words slightly differently in different acts, and there's not a lot of attempt to minimize the size of law.
So I think there is, I think the difficult thing is that how we're kind of talking about like, oh, the law's so vague and ambiguous and it could mean this and it could mean that. It's like, okay, well that's the consequence of basically shorter sentences and shorter drafting, because you're saying like, if I say to you like, don't park in the cycle lane unless it's reasonable or safe, like very short rule, but there's like a huge scope for interpretation, right?
Okay, just for clarity, you mean shorter sentences like Words on a page.
Like words on a
Not
page,
prosecutions.
Judicial,
Not time in jail.
I mean, another example of why language and context and
Well, English is the
understanding matters.
worst
Great
language
point,
for a lot of things. Like, it's so annoying.
We
We-
say
like
that,
people-
but it's like way more specific than like, you know, like, because I've learned a little bit of Indonesian and Thai, and like a lot of Southeast Asian languages are super vague. Like I try and convert English into these other languages, and then they're like, don't really understand what you're saying. Well, how would you say it? And they use like 3 words when I'm trying to use 15, you know, because they just don't put a lot of the context that we do when we're using English in the
Do you think there's
normal
something
speech.
behind that, though? Is like when a society that has been around for a really, really long time and is probably, what's the word? Monoculture-ish? Like there's a shared understanding and probably like a shared history, a
Shared
shared growing up, a
context.
shared context.
Yeah.
And one thing that keeps coming back to me, you know, democracy only functions when there's a shared view of reality. If you live in a Western country that brings together multiple different kinds of cultures and, you know, in New Zealand in particular, relatively short history of the country, we're constantly over-explaining things and explaining them in 25 different ways because it's required for people to get on the same page. And we still can't get on the same page about so many things.
We're a lot closer than most countries, though. Like,
Physically?
no, I mean, yeah. No, actually, we're a massive country. We're hugely
It's not many
geographically
people either,
dispersed.
we're quite
But again,
Yeah.
even that we're closer. Like, I could interpret that 5 different ways.
That is like exactly the issue. Is that like
Is Danu making a
when-
blood spike?
No,
Not the first time, won't be the last time.
false positives. There's this whole. This is what we're trying to do with the law as code stuff. It's like there is this whole rich 70-year history of trying to understand when we write words on a page that articulate a rule, what do we mean by that, and how do we kind of stabilize our like understanding of it? And that's what judges do. And there's like a bit of a process, and essentially it is like a little bit the meaning of words can change over time and in response to context, but that's what we want, because
And
otherwise
sometimes people can write it in English and Te Ao Māori or Te Tiriti, and how does that?
sometimes they don't.
And sometimes they don't match.
Yeah.
Which is like a little leap over to, because I know you do a lot. Like, did I read somewhere that like if I can air quote sovereign AI, there's a lot of interpretation as to what that means. I don't know that I know that I've thrown it around a lot, but actually I sat with it and I was like, actually, if someone pressed me, what do you mean by sovereign AI? I think I'd struggle.
I would guess, and I'm supposed to be.
What's your
What
guess?
do you think? You tell me the sovereign AI.
I would just derive it from the language. Like sovereignty is independent rule, right? Right. The ability to rule oneself. Sovereign AI would therefore
Like
be
sovereign
an
citizens.
independent form of AI that's not influenced by other sovereignties.
Yeah, I mean, I
all I
don't
got.
know either. The way I'd sort of meta frame it is, if you type dollar into Claude, the dollar symbol, it assumes you're meaning US dollars, right? Because it's trained on US context. If you ask it a law question, it'll tend to talk about civil and criminal law, and, you know, like separate them out and think about law in an American framing and not in a New Zealand framing.
Unless you tell it to.
Unless you tell it to, because it's been trained on, for an American audience, primarily on American data. And that is, and then is under control of American corporations. And so if it was giving the wrong answers, if it was saying, for instance, that China is a better, more stable political system than the American democratic system, they would probably go, well, that's an error in training, and look at what they've done wrong.
Is it?
And so
it
there's
depends on
both
which period you're talking about. And I'm just going to say Nixon was very unstable.
Yeah. Unstable's maybe the wrong word. Better. We'll go with a much vaguer better.
Nixon was better? No, Nixon was worse.
Does sovereignty
He rigged
have to do
he
with,
rigged
like,
an election. Anyway,
entitlement, not necessarily birthright, but if I was thinking about like a land or a country or a language or whatever, it's like, this is the thing and through my existence to which I'm entitled because I was born somewhere or
pretty
am part of a
interesting.
lineage, versus I don't know.
But also,
I hadn't thought about it that way, but that is pretty interesting.
sovereign can also mean a coin, right?
True. Yeah. Language. Ambiguous.
Extra points.
A lot of interpretation
I
required.
think it's also the alien race that wipes out intelligent civilizations in
Mass Effect. Yeah.
Correct.
Okay, well, you give us the definition, and I'm
Okay.
going to Google it, and Google's going to shove its AI definition in my face.
Why don't you
even though-
give it what answers we each gave, and then you get it to rate us, except for Tom.
And
'cause
it'll
he'll clearly-
it'll just go.
I am
Yeah,
going to
you're
do
so
that.
right.
When
Yeah,
we
that's
get,
exactly
when we get
what it
this, yeah, when we get this, I'm going to put that little transcript
Wow, that's a
in.
genius call. Have you thought about publishing this?
It's not just that; it's also
You're
this.
incredibly insightful.
Yeah.
I'm going to type in first
You
what
should
is
go
the
and get
word
me a real
sovereign,
body so we
and
can
then
be
what is
together
sovereign
forever.
AI. Okay. What is
Anthropic is selling them now for only $1,000 a month.
sovereign?
You know what I loved is like when the which one was it? Is it Kimi? Which one's the new Chinese model? It was DC4.
4
They were-
Pro, I think.
Yeah, 4 Pro. They were like, oh, we've got evidence that Chinese AI companies were hitting our APIs in order to distill our model down.
Yeah.
Apparently, Grok was doing that too. I saw today. Yeah.
But like the gall of these companies to like be like, they're stealing our data.
Yeah, we
Like-
stole the
we
whole
stole
world's data to
all
build
of
our
humanity's
AI.
IP.
And now they're stealing from us.
And now they're stealing from us, and we're gonna bitch about it. Like,
It's giving white America.
but also, this is probably one of the few places where Elon it actually is somehow righteous, because he just stole it alongside, I think, allegedly.
Okay. Allegedly,
but didn't
allegedly.
complain about it.
As a noun, sovereign means supreme ruler or entity, but as an adjective, it means independent and supreme, self-governing, usually describes politically independent nation or state that governs its own affairs without interference. Sovereignty in its noun form refers to power, status, or authority over itself. It is often defined as total autonomy.
Oh, we don't want that.
Or self-determination.
Oh, no. We need to back the truck up here.
Recursive self-improvement. That's what I'm here for.
No, back the truck up. We are not letting that one loose.
So I saw that Peter Lucas and Keone from Tehuku Media speak recently on sovereign AI, and we hope to have them on this podcast soon. And the model of Māori ownership of their own data coming quite specifically from like, look at all of these countries and brands and groups taking our cultural heritage, words, graphic depictions, songs, and using them however they like. And you've often talked about, like, if I stick in a different way, but if I stick a well-known song on the back of a YouTube video, YouTube will pull that down so quickly.
Yeah,
but
right.
why can Māori not have that same ownership over cultural content? So when I think sovereign AI, in that regard, it makes sense to me. But how else do you see it applied or working within human rights?
Wait, what's
today?
Tom's definition? But you blew it.
Well, he's
You gave him the answer. God damn it.
he knows.
Yeah, I wrote a paper. I
wrote the definition of sovereign.
No,
Tom Barraclough.
the sovereign. So I went through that journey too. So like I was basically giving a seminar, and someone sort of put their hand up at the back and went like, do you think sovereign AI is a solution to this? Because I saw that Norway is like training their own model. And initially I went like, that doesn't like, initially I heard it as like New Zealand GPT. So let's get like the New Zealand government to like create a competitor to like OpenAI.
But the thing is, you'll never know if it's
and-
hallucinating or if it meant yeah, nah.
Well, you will.
It's gotta
you will, but
it's gotta
somebody
be
from overseas
it's
might
gotta
not.
be a voice based yeah nah.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Can AI ever be sentient if it doesn't have an embodied desire for a pie?
Yeah. Gotta
I'm just gonna sit with that for about. I don't know.
let it soak in. Let it soak in.
I heard it as that the New Zealand government should train an AI model, and this was at the time when they were
I
saying
believe this,
like
by the way.
it costs like billions and billions and billions and billions
No.
to do it. No,
Nope.
cheap
Distilling China deep sea.
just steals it.
Oh, why not?
Yeah.
Why not? They stole it. And also, it's our own data.
Because we probably have laws that
$100
prevent
million.
us from doing things like
No,
that.
but like
Yeah, that was the other thing,
subsequent generations of technology. You know, if you're the first, it costs you the most. It was really expensive to go to the moon the first time, right? Like in 4 or 5 years, it is very conceivable, especially a specialist model, because we're finding that architecture, like mixture of experts, is actually the way that you achieve success. So if you kind of go, or for the time being, but if you kind of go, actually, we just want an LLM that's just trained on New Zealand law interpretation or parking tickets. Or, you know,
Parking ticket.
yeah, just parking ticket interpretation.
Millions of dollars to get you out
But
of
like,
parking
look,
tickets.
if you were to take, I don't know, what's a good one? the latest Gemma 4B, right?
Yeah,
like
yeah.
these are very
Quite
cost
nice.
effective.
Yeah.
They perform exceptionally well. You could spend maybe $200,000-$300,000, and you would have enough infrastructure to run that model very sufficiently and be comparable to one of the cloud-based models. And if you tasked it with adjudicating tickets as the first port of call, so not leaving it to humans, that implementation could be $500,000, and you could probably save a huge amount of administrative effort and make the process of arguing whether a ticket is valid or not, whether I'm blocking a cycleway or it's the red reflectors that are the problem. You would
keep you busy for
keep
ages.
me busy.
I mean, we're getting quite into the technical implementation, right?
But it kind of matters.
would be
The
like-
problem is we
but-
can't live in abstract land anymore. That's the problem.
Yeah, but the technical implementation, I don't think supports that,
Why?
right? So because training an AI is not the best way to get an AI to know knowledge. It's the best way to get it to know patterns. And so, yes, having those law decisions in its training database is good. But when you want to work on a code base, you don't start by taking a open source AI and fine tuning it on your code base. That's a bad way to get it to remember all of the details of your code base, because mixing all of the details of your code base in with all of the things it knows already. You stick it all into
I
its
think you're
context.
sharing an opinion because you don't know that that's not the best way.
There are multiple papers that talk about it.
What I meant to say is there are multiple papers that talk about this that clearly prove that you are correct and I am wrong.
I mean, both are sort of required, right? Like if you train an AI that has no idea on New Zealand jurisprudence and you've only trained it on American jurisprudence, it's going to get really confused when you give it a bunch of New Zealand legal cases and be like, analyze this, because it'll be like, I don't understand why it's not talking about like civil judges or whatever. But
don't you think a hybrid system works better with AI? Like human in the loop always, I believe, is the best architecture, because until the AI is able to clearly surpass the human in every single instance probabilistically, then human in the loop should exist.
What's the point in having humans?
What is the point of having humans? Let's start down that $3.5 million
I'm going to
journey.
like New Zealand sovereign AI would be weird because we have a Commonwealth, we have Māori Kingdom, we have New Zealand government.
But I think it's actually the best use case because we have two versions of the law that do need to be cross evaluated. We have some precedents that we want to override and some precedents that we want to follow.
It would be fair to say, and I don't want to speak on things I don't like, I'm not in the community, but if I were a Māori person who had gone, I'm going to do my own sovereign thing, and there's a whole portion of society or government or laws that have consistently underserved and not represented our interests or translated them fairly, no, I don't want to be part of a New Zealand sovereign AI, and no, you can't have any of my Māori
That's
intelligence
understandable.
into your New Zealand, and therefore it's not it wouldn't be representative of the country.
No, but I also think it would be silly to just let it take over everything and be and be used exactly to. My belief is, and I think Hamish shares this, is that all AIs are backwards looking.
yeah,
So their ability to like create precedent is actually you're just extrapolating a line based on precedent. So I wouldn't let it. I wouldn't let a system like that do the first version of something. Like if it was the first, test of whether a BMW in a cycle lane is actually a vehicle risk or a cyclist risk, I wouldn't let the AI adjudicate that. I'd rely on.
Let me give a bit of structure. Good
luck.
So I would like to see sovereign AI framed as like a policy direction. So I think it's for like New Zealand and people in New Zealand to be thinking about sort of self-determination, not in like a strictly legal sense. So I'm kind of away from the law side of things on all of this. Like I'm really thinking about like another way of framing it that some of the Australian think tanks have come up with is talking about agency. So like agency over AI or like autonomy when it comes to AI. So I think for me, like a sovereign AI approach could just be really solid AI literacy education. So the conversation that we've just had would have been totally impenetrable to like most people, just because of the subject matter, not because of
even the difference between training and context, right? Like people still
and like
think
fine tuning
Vague
versus
as
thing.
training.
people still think that when they talk with Claude, it learns from its mistakes in the conversations they're having.
Or that
with
it's
it.
like Googling stuff. And sometimes it might be,
Sometimes
but only if you've turned it on, you know?
Or if you ask it to, right? Like I will often say, like, it'll give me something like, can you go and check? You know, like go and do a search, and then it'll come.
Always turn the web search feature
So is there a
on
country that you
the
think
public
is doing
service
it well,
announcement.
whether it's sovereign AI or not?
So Canada, the UK have just announced like a sovereign AI strategy, literally in the last like week. And I think the UK in the last 48 hours has said that they're going to train a sovereign AI.
48 hours, 2 weeks ago, depending on when this
Oh,
podcast
look,
comes out.
I think geopolitically, it's
Australia's doing it, Singapore's doing
fucking
it,
terrifying.
Switzerland's done it.
that this technology is not. I mean, everyone's just racing to this goddamn IPOs.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
like.
Well, so
it's-
the other dimension of it is like, assume that you've got like a model that you're happy with. Where is it stored? Like, whose computer is it running on? Where is it?
That's obviously what the Bitcoin crypto ledger is for.
Well, it's like, who gets to turn it off as well
Yeah,
is
yeah.
the other big dimension here. So
Yeah,
like
that's
the
true.
reason that Canada and the UK and some of the European, like
But do we
the
need
EU as a whole is steamrolling towards like a sovereign AI strategy,
Yeah.
because they're now considering the opportunity that basically they could build their whole governmental architecture on Claude, and then basically like they just turn it off.
Yeah,
And you're
100%. This kill switch thing, they just did it to the US
So there's
government.
a big sovereignty
Yeah.
thing to that as well. So it's like, where is it being run? Who gets to decide to turn it off? Then there's a layer of like, does it know your context? And there's lots of different ways to do that. Like part of it could just be providing better systems so that the model has access to relevant context. And that's like quite a cool use case for DocRef, to be honest.
Yeah.
Like if you had all of New Zealand law available as structured data via API. And one of the things that we did with the API standard was created an MCP server, so that when I was redrafting the standard, I could be doing like a semantic graph search across the source material to consolidate it all together. So like a sovereign AI approach could also just be thinking really strategically about how we make sure that reliable information is made available to an AI, which is pretty interesting for things like health.
Yeah.
Or think of like election information as well. Like we're about to rock into an election.
Yeah.
And so many people are going to be asking AI, like, what do I do about this?
We did a little project a couple of years ago. How do you
Right.
surface non-partisan or equally weighted information?
Probably released that
And
actually.
I know, but there are reasons.
Run up to an election. That's a good time to do that.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah. We should probably do a new version of that.
calculator, but an
But,
AI conversational search. Because we don't know what we don't know.
always believed AI's potential is AI for one, right? Like people like medical, like advice, teacher education sort of system, and justice.
I reckon, you know how we were talking before about there's a lot of information out there and people just don't know about it. And they're like, you know, you're talking about sort of you buy a house in a floodplain or something, or like you just don't know what the law is.
Well, you don't know how it's going to be interpreted at the time, right? Like a lot of people
but there's
were
also
assured
just
that they were insured, and
But
with
there's
the floodplains
there's
and
that, and like that's kind of, well, it's kind of bound up in there. But the, you know, aside from all the rules as code stuff, the other opportunity with DocRef is just to surface information more reliably. And there's this big issue now where, like, if you're going to do, and I know because this was my life for a long time, let's say you're going to sit down and you're going to go, what's the law on this? Or, like, you know, you're going to do a research exercise on, like, what should the law look like? The user experience now is I maybe start with a Google search. Then you find the agency's website. You find the bit of the agency's website where they store all the stuff that you've got to read. You start right-clicking and opening tabs. And then you go, okay, have I seen this tab before or not? Then you have to go and download the PDF from the web page and put that somewhere. Then you don't know if that's the latest version of the PDF or whether it's not. Then you've got to work out where to store all that information. And it's all in web pages and PDFs all over the place. Then you're going to have to close your browser at some point and you're going to be like, where did it all go? This is how the like law and policy process works, unless you've got a subscription to like LexisNexis.
I was going to say, even more
and we can
depressingly,
do way better than that.
that's a good system, right? Because in America, like private corporations hold copyright over portions of the law in America.
That's here too.
Oh my god.
It's here too?
Yeah. So we were talking about we're talking about Andrew up north, and Andrew up north,
that one.
So
in
I'm
New
talking
Zealand,
about
it is
Andrew
just
Easterbrook from Open Law. We did a project with them on basically publishing judicial decisions as data so that you could access them. And that came from our access to justice research, because what we did is we tried to identify, we read a lot of case law and basically went like in X% of cases, somebody didn't have a lawyer. So we used it for sort of like reporting on systemic issues. And we tried to redo that with computers because that would have been way faster and better. So we worked with Andrew on that. And one of the key findings from it is basically there's two sources of law in New Zealand, legislation and case law. One of them, unless you have a commercial subscription to an international company, you cannot get access to all of it.
By case law, is that like when a lawyer looks for precedent or previous kind of URA?
Yeah.
Well, I mean,
That's a big problem.
That's a huge
That
problem.
is a big problem. Yeah. And it's like if this was legislation, you would be like...
and those subscriptions aren't cheap, right? Like, and you wouldn't even know to get it.
And they're literally also like, they tell you what the price is.
Yeah, and it's not like a flat rate subscription. Like, at least in America,
Next business idea?
It's charged per page of access.
yeah.
Oh, wow.
And you have no idea what's on the page before you access it. So your outcome of justice is literally how much money you feed into LexisNexis looking for case law that proves your point.
It's so
Which is why you
rigged.
end up with so much AI hallucinated references to existing case law.
Because it's got case.
I've got a real bugbear about this as well, because what you're getting now is people go to court, right, and they're shepherding themselves through the process with ChatGPT, and then they're showing up and they've got citations, and some, like the latest one was like they were legitimate citations just for the wrong point, but sometimes they'll be totally made up, and the response from the court, I think, understandably, is like, hey, don't do that. You'll be in contempt of court if you keep doing this. But if you then think about the alternative, it's like, well, where are they actually meant to go and get that information from? And I think there's like a duty on the court, basically, to
not
be
punish
going...
you, to form your
to
defense.
actually take a coordinated approach, like, well, here's all the stuff, and here's the bit where your AI plugs in so that it can actually like search and retrieve it better and give you reliable citations. Because otherwise we're just like asking self-represented litigants to not only be like expert lawyers, but also like AI experts as well. And I just think that's unrealistic.
It is.
Yeah.
We're a little bit over time, and I'm going to close us out. But this is the perfect line. If I may read one more, I'm just so proud. I read so much paperwork.
I'm proud too. Did really good.
Thank you. I did want my gold star like a millennial.
Did you publish this like 2 years ago?
No,
has been
it's about to be published. Yeah.
Did
So
you
this
publish
is like-
something else 2 years ago? I remember reading something.
Yeah. So plug is that we put out a report on legislation as code in 2021, and I was actually revisiting it for this, and it's really cool because it's been cited in like Japan, and there's people like talking about it in Portuguese, and there's somebody from Kazakhstan who's like read it and published something in a statute law review. So it's one of those things where like part of the reason I want to build technology now rather than just write reports is when you write reports, it feels like you just like throw them out into the ether and like nobody reads them. So it was quite gratifying to kind of realize last night that actually there's like 30 plus
Some people
people actually reading it around the world and engaging with it. People in the US as well. So
Nice.
it's always nice to see people actually read stuff.
I mean,
so I appreciate it.
This is an antidote to the chronic doom scrolling that I have. So
I was
Go
gonna
read
say,
a law journal, everybody.
academic papers need to add a Facebook style like button.
you
so
follow.
they do. Get engagement on you.
They definitely tried
It
that.
is hard, but it is also a choice. It is a choice to try and read something like this.
There's plenty of sources like that. Just plug in my favorite one, journalclub.io. It's like $10 a year or something.
It's legitimate?
Yeah.
Okay, because
No,
journalclub.io sounds like the site you go to get downloads from Mega.
It is great. Like they do a little 15-minute explainer podcasty thing, and then they've got the paper, and
Hey.
you can break it down from high level and then drill down. And they publish weekly. Yeah.
I love
Don't
how you
doom
both
scroll.
always
That's
start
pretty
tapping
niche.
your watch. You're like, we got to wrap up. And then
And
you
then
both go on
yarn.
tangents again.
Yeah.
Yeah, get us under control, man.
Yeah, God damn it.
Okay, I'm going to read
Got
this,
one
which I
job,
thought was
Elena.
really, really interesting. A lawyer who can code is a developer, and a developer who can review legal material with authority is a lawyer. But until every lawyer is a developer and every developer is a lawyer, there will be a need to translate.
It's a
Boom.
snappy one, eh?
I know.
Just get that on a t-shirt.
We were thinking about DocRef merch for today.
Yeah, just QR codes everywhere.
codes, yeah.
Check the citation.
Yeah, no, thanks for that.
I feel a lot smarter and actually slightly more empowered to put effort into reading the things that are going to ultimately impact the way in which we live our lives, because that's what's behind all of this, right? Government policy, acts, parking tickets, it's all being governed by
Yeah.
people that read this stuff, and we voted for them. And if we could read it and had the authority to like help contribute to it, we could have a whole different kind of democratic participation,
yeah,
which is what it's all about.
I think that's where I always come to with a lot of this stuff as well, is like you just start at the front door of like, we're going to talk about law or politics or technology, and everyone's like, oh yeah, that's not really my thing, like I don't really know anything about that. And then like
Such a privileged position, eh?
Well, it's also like literally within like 15 seconds you land on like a story like you told about like, oh, I had this thing the other day and it really pissed me off and it was so dumb and it was illogical, and or like an example about like a computer system that like doesn't fit with the way the world actually works, and that has like a real world consequence. The other thing with all of this is like the when I first started doing a lot of this like tech policy stuff, it was like I could like keep track of all the like AI deepfake disinformation stories and like send them to people. Yeah. Now it's like every news app you open is just basically
You got to do it
tech
the other
policy.
way. You got to send people legitimate stories. That happens way less frequently.
But it was also like it's the dominant, like it is the dominant influence in international markets and like foreign policy and like the way we relate to each other. So I just think it's really important, and what I'm really trying to do is like, one, how do we think about that stuff better and more clearly in a way that like empowers people to feel that they've got a ticket to that discussion and their opinion matters. And then the second half of that is basically then how do we then give them the tools that they need to kind of manifest the way that they want to see the world when it comes to technology as well. So that's like the two flip sides of the same coin that I'm working on.
I also know we're massively over time, but we didn't even talk about MSD's use of AI thing to determine outcomes. Hot take.
Or using AI
30
to
seconds.
draft
3,
stuff.
2, 1,
Hot
go.
take. Nobody really understands what is actually going on, and we're all talking past each other. That's my hot take.
Was that targeted at me? Gotcha.
Specifically on the MSD.
We're going to have to do a whole separate one on that. And
I know
and
the
I do
the
wanna do
title
another
of
one
this podcast.
What?
You won't believe who owns the copyright to our laws. Like seriously, that is fucking wild.
Yeah.
I don't think people maybe appreciate the impact of that. Like not having that information is absolutely crucial.
Well, like I have to, just because the comments will come in, there's crown copyright over the actual law, right? It's just that you can't get access to it.
Still.
Yeah.
It's
so
just,
we're not as bad as the US, but
even you know,
so
speaking
at
on
least
the US
once
audience,
you've got access to it, you can distribute it under crown copyright.
Yeah.
Whereas in America, you can have a
touch
copy of a something at LexisNexis and not be able to distribute it to other people because that's making a copy of it.
Yeah. It's
I mean,
Which parts
their whole
does
system is
Disney
broken. So here's another amazing thing about American law. In a lot of states in America, their judges are elected from the general populace.
Yeah.
They don't have to know shit about the law before they become a judge.
Well,
They
the
just
12
do whatever
jurors-
is popular.
the 12 juror system is wild when you really think about it.
Yeah. But people love that though. That's like a safety valve. People
It is.
People really dig that.
Yeah.
What would
Okay.
happen? What's the right size? Because if you look at like Greek
In Germany,
democracy,
they have like 3 judges and no jury.
We do that sometimes here.
you can
You
pick
can
what
ask-
type of trial.
you can ask.
have a judge
Can't
trial.
You
You
can say, I don't want a jury trial.
I would hate
Yeah,
to be
usually on
judged by my
appeal, you
peers
have like
these
3
days.
judges. Supreme Courts in New Zealand is 5, I think. Yeah.
I would.
Yeah.
Can you pick the age of the judges? Because what you want is a normally distributed.
It's not.
It'd be pretty
Panel
funny
of
to see you
judges.
ask though.
It's not like
how
Tinder
old
where you're
are
just
they?
like scrolling
Yeah.
through the judges going, nah. Oh, he
Yeah.
looks nice.
Yeah.
If you ever find yourself in
You've
court,
got it.
don't file that motion.
No, I'm running. I'm never going to make it to court. Excuse
me, Your Honor, you're too
Bahamas.
old.
Yeah.
Let's see how that
No,
goes
you
down.
say, excuse me, Your Honor, you're too wise.
Yeah.
I thought you were about to say, excuse me, Your Honour, you're too white.
Oh, that could be a thing. Depends on what's happening. you know.
Okay, we're not
If
going to
it's
go down
a-
that rabbit hole now.
If it's a
we're out
B&E,
of time.
then I'll definitely be.
I
Thank
only
you so
respect
much, Tom.
attractive
Okay.
lawyers.
Thank you, Tom.
Thank you,
Tom.
thank you for having me.